Well, good morning. Can you all hear me? Great. Shane, thank you for that very kind introduction, and welcome. You are all the early birds to this conference, and others will be joining us as we progress, but this is always a great event, and I'm pleased to be able to participate in it again this year. And I want to especially thank Shane, Tim Lior, Tim Lorden. Where's Tim? He's in the back making sure things are going right. He does a great job as the executive director, and Jerry Berman as the former executive director and founder of this organization, dedicated not to lobbying the Congress about individual pieces of legislation, but to educating the Congress about the legislative issues surrounding technology and all of the important constitutional principles that surround the use of technology. They do a great job of making sure that members and their staff are given the opportunity to participate in a whole host of events where they hear from some of you and about the great issues of the day, and then legislative initiatives hopefully will evolve from that and with a better understanding of the impact of technology on our lives. So year after year, the industry and government leaders come together to discuss the pressing issues that impact the internet and its users, and today I have the privilege of introducing to you Lior Div, who co-founded Cybereason, a cybersecurity startup which utilizes military-grade technology to stop the world's most advanced cyber attacks. Lior is an expert in the fields of hacking operations, forensics, reverse engineering, malware analysis, cryptography, and evasion. Previously, Lior served in Unit 8200 of the Israeli Intelligence Corps as a commander of a cybersecurity team where he received a Medal of Honor for his excellent achievements. Prior to co-founding Cybereason, Lior founded a cybersecurity services company that provided services to Israeli government agencies. The growing challenges consumers, businesses, and governments face today are greater than ever before, especially with the advanced capabilities and techniques illicit hackers are able to leverage to infiltrate networks across the globe. That's why it is important now, more than ever, to ensure we continue to work collaboratively in finding ways to deter and prevent hackers from infiltrating networks that maintain everything from our nation's electrical grid to our personal information. And that's why I'm excited today to have this candid dialogue with Lior, whose company partners with companies such as Lockheed Martin, SoftBank, and Wipro to ensure the most advanced cyber attacks are countered with the most advanced cyber defense mechanisms. That's something we want to learn more about today, and that's why I would like everyone to join me in welcoming Lior Div. Lior, welcome. Is there anything you'd like to start out with saying before we get into a few questions that we have for you?
First, I wanted to thank you, Mr. Chairman, to inviting me here to this forum. I am honored to be here, and I think that the topic of cybersecurity is extremely important, as you mentioned. And let's jump into.
Get right into it.
Yep.
So first question, does the rapid growth of cybersecurity and the industry that surrounds it reflect the growing number of cyber threats that we face?
Oh, yeah. So I like this question a lot because the answer is easy. It's absolutely yes. From what we see in the past few years, and I can give a few examples about it, we see a rapid growth in the sophistication and the motivation of hackers around the world. And in very, very high-level way, you can divide it into two groups. One is a state-sponsored attack that we see more and more and more, and the other one is criminal that we see more and more. Just the fact that ransomware become basically a business model that hackers are using in order to gain control and collect money from individual people. We see a growth in the past 3 years, basically from 2014, 15, 16, and so on. We see a huge rapid growth of the use of ransomware in order to collect money from people. So this is just one example. Of course, when it goes to the state-sponsored attack, we believe that more and more countries, and this is something that we see, using those type of attack in order to collect espionage or to use it for espionage manner.
Well, it seems that everybody who's involved in hacking of various kinds various types of cyber attacks are becoming more and more sophisticated. Is that true, and what do we need to do in response to that?
So I think that there are still groups of, we call it the script kiddies, basically people that don't really understand the nature of the beast. They don't really know how to utilize sophisticated tool. But on top of that, I think that there is, and this is something that we see every day in our customers, there see a growing use of more sophisticated tool, but that basically leaked from the government or other places into the commercial / to the criminal world, that people starting to utilize it. In general, what we see is that more and more criminals are starting to become a pro when it's come to cybersecurity, meaning they learn the topic, they use the new tools, and actually sometimes they're inventing a new method in order to use them. So I think that we can see the growth of sophistication that goes very, very rapidly in the past, I think 2 years, very aggressive.
So it seems that many people who are hacked, have data stolen, may not even realize the data has been stolen or realize far too late. And there are obviously some very high-profile examples of that with, for example, the Democratic National Committee, just as an example recently. What can entities like that, private businesses, government agencies, political organizations do to be more aware when they are getting these kinds of attacks that something actually is going wrong? Is there technology to be deployed? Are there things that can be done to counter some of this sophistication that is developing on the side of the hackers?
So first, I think that what we need to do is, and this is the time to introduce the IT security versus the cyber security kind of mindset. The IT security mindset is the old mindset that you can create a wall, and everything outside the wall is protected, and everything inside, it's not safe, sorry, and everything that inside the wall is protected. Those there's are gone. Meaning we move from IT security to cyber security when if somebody wants to hack, meaning to get control on your system, he will be able to do that. Sometimes it will take more time, but the mindset needs to be changed to be a mindset that if somebody wants to hack and to get control on your system, he will be able to do that. And in this kind of new world, after you change the mindset, you need to apply technology that assumes that if somebody wants to get in, he will be able to go in, and then what? Basically, then the technology needs to assess the environment every time, 24/7, again and again and again, and answer basically a very simple question. Are we under attack right now? Meaning, is there right now an adversarial activity inside my environment? And if the answer is yes, to be able to really understand everything that's going on, it's like the military, to get a situational awareness of what's going on. Once you understand that, then you can foil or eliminate the attack.
And that is attainable by the average business, the average organization, or the average government agency? They can get that kind of situational awareness?
So I think to change the mindset, this is something that's related to education. We as a company pushing the agenda, and we are speaking in these forums and other forums in order to help people to change the mindset. So this is one thing that I believe, that there is a lot of information that exists out there that every chief security officer can educate himself and the company and the CEO and the board members. And when it's come to technology, I think that in the past 3 years, we see a rapid growth of startup that introduces a new ways, actually cutting edge way and technology in order to deal with the problem. Just for an example, in Cybereason, we try to use every technology that exist out there, big data, AI technology. Then we realized that the technology that exists today, it's not enough. So we spent more than 2 years to develop basically a new technology, a new big data technology, to be able to implement the solution that we are selling today. So there is a new cutting edge technology out there that can enable a chief security officer to deal with the problem.
I think that it's always been the case, but I think following some of these recent cyber attacks that do not seem to have a profit motive, it's become more and more apparent to people that people engage in cyber hacking for a wide variety of reasons, not just to make money. Some simply want to test the quality of system And actually, when they find weaknesses, they'll report them to the company that provides that software or other technology service. Others have motivations political, as we've seen, and of course, theft of large quantities of data for profit reasons, or targeting an individual to relieve them of some of their assets, are all things that people worry about increasingly in our society. Have you encountered any state-sponsored hackers while conducting systems analysis on your clients' IT infrastructures while you're doing it?
So Cybereason today, it's a global company that have access to company across the world, all the way from many companies here in the States, Europe, Japan, and other places. In the past more than 3 years, we managed to show again and again and again two types of group of attack that we managed to find. One is criminal, of course, that have the motivation there is generate revenue and money. But the other one is, in some cases, pure espionage, meaning that you can see that this is a well-thought attack that is targeted to collect a specific type of information from a company that there is no commercial, basically, for criminal or motivation for criminal to attack this company. I think that in the past few years, we've become more and more sophisticated in our ability to assess and understand what's going on inside the companies, meaning to be able to go all the way from the single byte that those hackers collected to who is the adversary and what was their motivation. And I think that by now today, the answer to your question is absolutely yes. We saw many type of attacks that didn't come from just specific country, from different countries, and some of them can be surprising.
Which types of threats concern you the most?
So I think that it depends in which industry. But the most is the type of attack that actually can use software in order to generate destruction in the real world. And because when it comes to collecting information, espionage, this is something that it just evolved during the years. Meaning that at the old days it was spies, today you're using software in order to do that. But this day I think that we managed to prove that you can use software as a weapon. And basically I think this is kind of, if you think about the ranks, this is the top and most dangerous one, because once a country decided to use software against other country as a weapon, this is not different than uses missiles and other techniques.
And so shutting down the electrical grid, causing a nuclear power plant to malfunction, causing a meltdown on a financial exchange, those are the sorts of things that we should all be the most concerned about?
Yeah, I think that, and we can go on and on and on with examples, because there are many type of examples, and even the non-obvious one. You can shut down stoplights in a specific area and create it, and direct the traffic, and then create whatever you want to create, basically move people from one area to another. There is a lot of subtleties and sophistication that cybersecurity is introducing versus a regular weapon.
Have we seen any examples of either of those on a large scale or smaller scale?
I think that...
Or they've actually done some of those things?
So the answer is yes. What we see that a few countries changes their way of attacking a real attack, starting with the cybersecurity attack to paralyze, let's say, the electrical grid, and then to use a real power in order to conduct their operation.
Right. But have we actually seen that happen, say, in any country, but particularly here in the United States?
So I don't think that we have a specific example here in the state. We have kind of indication that maybe, but it wasn't a clear cut. But I think that the day will come.
But the prospect of, for example, a protester, we've seen plenty of those around here this past weekend, attempting to change the traffic pattern by manipulating the traffic system, that's a real possibility of occurring.
Yeah, I think that it all boils down to the motivation, meaning who is behind the scene and what is the type of motivation they have. What I don't think that we have a clear definition today, what is an act of war? So in the old days, there is a very clear definition. When it comes to cyber, there is no clear definition of those type of attacks.
You mentioned ransomware,
Yeah.
to change the subject a little bit, which has come up more recently. A number of people, even some of my constituents, have experienced this. Is this a serious ongoing concern, or is it the fad of the day?
So I'm smiling because 5 years from now, we see the rise of ransomware. It started. And for us, we thought about it, this is not a real cyber attack. Meaning a few computer was encrypted and that's it. In the past 3 years, what we see a growing business model when it's come to ransomware. What does it mean? Meaning the combination of the ability to encrypt file with the combination of using a Bitcoin together, generating a new business model for criminal to generate a lot of revenue. And suddenly what we see more and more groups out there using ransomware in order to just generate money. Instead of stealing it, they just using this method. So the phenomena becomes so big right now that we believe that there is more than $1 billion that was generated using this method. So I don't think that this is just something that it's here and it will be gone. I think that this is something that it's here and it's gonna stay because the business model works.
So as people get more sophisticated in trying to stop that, the criminals will again get more sophisticated and find new ways to grab control of your computer software and deny you access to it unless you pay them a ransom, or threaten to destroy it.
Yeah, that's the reason that in Cybereason we created a free tool that everybody can use. And if you think about it, it's outside of our business model because we are focusing on enterprises. But the problem is so big that we said if we're not going to do something about it and going to contribute our ability and knowledge into this area, it will be basically impossible. So basically, this is a free tool that's available to everybody, personal people to companies, small companies all over the world. And people started to use it, and we started to calculate the amount of dollars. And we introduced it last month, and we started to calculate the amount of dollars that we managed to save to people by being able to stop this phenomena. I think that this is something that we're doing as a one company, but this is something that everybody needs to do together in order to push this agenda because that's a real thing.
Where is cybersecurity headed? What concerns are there with the Internet of Things and the use of wearable technology?
If you look at the future, and even in the near future, everything is connected. People used to say everything will be connected, but everything is connected today. But the fact that everything is connected, if you think about Internet of Things, I think that we should think about security of things. Because you can, basically my thermostat at my home is connected to my computer, connected to a camera, connected not to the refrigerator yet, but it will be connected there. So everything is connected. So if somebody really wants to get control and to hack, you don't need to use my cellular phone or my PC anymore. You can use all the other things as a surface to attack and then leverage this in order to get control.
How can the public sector better connect with the private sector in addressing problems like this? What's the best role for Congress in facilitating this kind of collaboration? We have, as you know, a great deal of concern on the part of many of our constituents about their privacy, the protection of their civil liberties, but they also want to be protected from various types of criminal attacks, and finding the right combination is something that is very important for the Congress. What's your view of how that should head in the future?
So I think that for many years, the government agencies and the government in general around the world, not just here in the state, was a closed garden when it's come to security, and especially when it's come to information security. I think those days are gone. I think that we see a change in the willingness to cooperate between the government and the private sector. And I think, Mr. Chairman, that you mentioned it when you were discussing about encryption. And I think that you are more expert than I am about it.
Thank you for the observation. And we are very concerned about this. We have established an encryption working group. It grew out of course, the dispute between the FBI and Apple over access to the smartphone of the attackers in California who engaged in terrorist attack, and many lives were lost. Obviously, the FBI wanted to find out as rapidly as possible if there were any co-conspirators, any people still out there that they need to be aware of, and they encountered a problem. But Apple also encountered a problem with the FBI's initial solution, which was create a backdoor key that we can get around the encryption, the rather basic encryption device to just open up the smartphone. And Apple response was, if we do that, we're going to jeopardize hundreds of millions of similar devices around the world because once that key is out there, it's available to anyone. The trend in the industry is obviously in the opposite direction, which is to create devices that nobody has a key to, and that has its own share of problems. What are your observations about that?
So it is a complex issue, completely complex, because as you mentioned, once you're creating an encryption or you close something in a way that somebody will be able to open it with a backdoor, and it doesn't matter what is the purpose that you did it. If let's say that the purpose was pure for the government or pure for a good reason, hackers, their expertise is to be very, very creative and look for those holes. So if the hole is created and it's there, they will find it eventually. Maybe they will not find it in the first week or month, but over time we saw it again and again and again that if there is a backdoor, it will be found and will be used against the main purpose that it was created. So I think that the simple answer to just create a backdoor for somebody, it's not relevant anymore.
We agree.
Yes. So as you mentioned, this is a very, very complex situation that we need to work together and cooperate between the government and the private sector in a smart way, and not just in the very, very simplistic way. And again, I think that that was covered completely when you wrote about the encryption and the Apple case.
Well, thank you. We view that as an interim report because we think this is going to be an ongoing, evolving problem, and there is going to be a need for the Congress to be aware of the need for some legislative solutions sometimes, but also the risks involved if we undertake them and don't understand the ramifications of what we're doing. That's certainly came up with regard to that. There were legislative initiatives offered, and so in response, we offered this working group, which it's my hope and intention will continue to do its work in this new Congress. Let's open it up for questions from the audience. I'm sure we've not touched on something you want us to. This gentleman right down here in the middle.
Chairman Goodlatte, you mentioned
Tell us all who you are.
Oh, I'm sorry, Claude Marks with MWatch News Service of Washington, Texas, and I was trying to find out a little more about what we might see from Congress this session on these issues, Chairman Goodlatte. What will your committee be doing, and what will some of the other committees be focusing on in this area?
As you know, the working group that we've just been talking about here is a working group of, it's bipartisan. It was formed by the chairman and the ranking member of both the Judiciary Committee and the Energy and Commerce Committee, the two primary committees of jurisdiction related to this issue. It's my intention that we continue with that work, and we're now having discussions amongst the leaders of those committees as to how that would best proceed forward.
Well, I'm sorry, what about other tech policy issues? Will your committee be doing with other
We're
things?
going to be
Patent
unrolling
reform
our
is one
entire
stuff.
tech agenda in the near future. This morning is not the time for me to talk about all the different issues related, everything from immigration to the Electronic Communications Privacy Act and other things. We'll have a full discussion of that very soon. Way in the back, we have a hand.
Good morning, Alex Howard from the Sunlight Foundation. As you may have heard, Politico reported that President Trump will tap Ajit Pai to be the chairman of the FCC. Do you expect Congress to pass legislation regarding open internet rules on net neutrality? And if so, what will those principles be?
I really appreciate the question, but we're really here to hear from Mr. Div today. And there will be an opportunity very soon to have a discussion about all of the various issues related to the internet and the jurisdiction of the Judiciary Committee. But I really would like to respect Mr. Div and his expertise in the area of cryptography and keep the focus on that.
I respect that, Congressman. In that case, I'll ask a follow-up directed towards him. Is it possible to have a secure backdoor, a so-called golden key, that government agencies have and not expose the nation's private data to potential hacking should that be compromised? Is it mathematically possible, speaking with your technical acumen, for that to occur? How should we be balancing the privacy interests of billions of people against the state's interest in gaining access to that private data?
I think that's directed to you, Mr. Div, but I also have an answer for it.
So I'll speak mathematically. Mathematically, I think that once there is a backdoor, there is a backdoor, meaning that somebody will be able to use it. When it comes to encryption, I think that it's much more complex than just talk about the mathematics. There is the way that you implement it, the way that you are using it, and the technology that surrounds it in general. I think that the way that the industry goes is to create a situation that nobody will be able to open the encryption. When it's come to protecting everybody, I think that it's very complicated, meaning that it's not a pro-encryption or against encryption topic. I do think that it's a complicated issue that needs to be discussed, and I don't think that there is an easy or clear answer of how to do that.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I'm not sure what a gold key is, but I certainly would question who would have access to that, and the fact that it existed in any form would make it in and of itself the target of people attempting to get a hold of it, whether they are government employees or government contractors, as was the case with Mr. Snowden. And therefore, quite frankly, trying to set up a situation where you always know that somebody else has a key in case something goes wrong is a very serious matter that I think would likely jeopardize communication systems if we go about viewing it in that fashion. I think you have to think outside the box here. I think there are ways for government and companies like Lior Div's company to collaborate on finding solutions on what I think is going to be an ongoing problem, but to think that there is a golden key or a magic key or something else that would solve intelligence and law enforcement's problems and not put at risk the safety, the security of, as you call it, billions of people is not a realistic way to look at this problem.
I'm Mike Nelson. I do global public policy for Cloudflare, which is a web security firm. And I wanted to ask an international question of our speaker. This is a global problem. I'd be curious whether you can point out 2 or 3 countries that seem to be doing the right thing, not only to protect the confidentiality of information online, but also to prevent DDoS attacks and to prevent manipulation of data and violations of the integrity of data. And I guess the related question for both of you would be, is there something the US could be doing to more effectively help other countries tackle cybersecurity issues?
Definitely. I think that what we see in the past few years is a growing evolution of understanding the nature of the problem. Meaning that if you go back 5 years ago, people didn't use the term cybersecurity and they didn't know that this problem is exist. As I said earlier, people refer to security as IT security, meaning that if I will create a bigger wall or create a firewall between the outside and the inside, that will be enough. I think that this change, meaning that in the past 5 years, people are more and more educated, and I think that here in the state, the discussion is very progressed, relatively very progressed than what we see outside of the US. We have a foothold, and we have the part of my company in Japan as well. I can say that Japan is probably 2 years behind the US, and then Europe is around 1 year behind of the US. So I do think that the US right now, as a state, is very progressed in the way that we are thinking about cybersecurity. But it's not enough, because I think that the major problem that we see is about education of children, meaning that right now most of the problem that we see in the industry, that there is a lack of people that are expert in cybersecurity, meaning that if you're not coming from the right 3-letter agency, you don't know anything about cyber. You know probably everything about configuring security or IT security, but that's it. So I think that to educate people, to educate in the university about cybersecurity, and not just the defense and offense, and to explain and to teach people how to use this new technology, this is something that we should do, and we need to progress in a more rapid cadence than we're doing right now.
And I would just add that I think the U.S. has a role in many ways that is ongoing right now and should be stepped up in the future. But we work, I am confident, very collaboratively with organizations, international organizations, and international organizations like Interpol, Europol, to discuss various cyber threats and share information that can be shared about how to counter them. We also work collaboratively with other countries, and I think that technology companies can help that, because many of them work around the globe selling their services, and that sharing of information and that competitive environment also helps to build new technologies like Lior's company builds that will benefit this problem. It is no doubt an international problem. The internet, more than anything in history, transcends national boundaries effortlessly. So I think that it is a serious problem, but we also have to look at this as a problem of not security versus privacy. In my opinion, it's security versus privacy and security, because strong technology keeps people safe. At the same time, it protects their information, whether it be financial or health or simply private communications. And that doesn't in any way diminish the problem that intelligence organizations and law enforcement organizations have in their responsibility to prevent various types of cyber attacks and other physical attacks, as Lior noted, that are very much going to be increasingly related to each other. But we're going to have to do it in such a way that we respect both of these goals. Rick?
One quick question, and then we have Congresswoman Del Bene.
Real quickly, you mentioned that cybersecurity is something that's been talked about just recently for the past 5 years. But in 2000, the U.S. Chamber put together a panel discussion on cybersecurity. We called it Cybersecurity, the Real Y2K Threat. That was 16, 17 years ago now. One of the things that was interesting about the Y2K threat was the publicity. Businesses stepped up to the plate trying to fix it. There was a massive effort, and everyone was gung-ho about doing it. How do we get the business community to take that type of seriousness, again, with limited resources, but to realize that if they don't do these things, we're all at threat from a cybersecurity attack?
It's interesting, because 5 years ago I had a conversation with it was 5 chief security officers from Wall Street, and basically they said cybersecurity, it's like the government should protect us. I think that it was half a year later that the SEC asked them, what are you doing in order to protect yourself? So I think that right now we need to create a situation that there is no the government versus the private sector. meaning this is the time that we need to start working together. Mr. Chairman, you mentioned earlier about sharing information about intelligence. There is different group bad guys that exist out there. We know about them. We collect information on them as a private company. We share it with the government. The government should share information with us. Of course, not the top secret one, but there is many other type of information that can help us be in better protecting those private companies. So I believe that when we will change the dialogue between the government and the private sector in general, not just companies like mine, meaning Wall Street and other companies, people will start to realize that this is an effort that we're doing together in order to solve this problem. Because this problem is not like the Y2K problem. The Y2K, it was one day and then it was gone. This problem is here to stay. And I think that it's right now our responsibility to change the dynamic and to make sure that everybody is working together in order to solve this problem.
Thank you very much. Just one final note. I want to put in a plug for your next speaker. Suzanne Delbene has been a very valued member of the Judiciary Committee and very much involved in this issue, works in a very bipartisan way on it. But she's also leaving the Judiciary Committee and moving on. I can't imagine why, but there's some other committee that she wants to move on to. But she is a great bipartisan advocate for work in this area. Let's give Lior Div a round of applause. Thank him for coming here today, sharing his ideas.
Thank you.